Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. Today I'm going to be discussing memories of Asian actors and actresses that were on television back in the 1960s, 1970s, which there weren't very many at that time, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss some memories of ones that I remember seeing on television. One was Pat Morita, and from a picture of him from Karate Kid, I remember seeing him on Laugh-In. And he was in the movie Thoroughly Modern Miller. He played one of the was it bellboys? That's what you call it. That carried people's luggage to the hotels. Worked for this woman, Mrs. Mears, in the movie. The movie had Julie Andrews, Mary Tyler Moore, and Carol Channing. And a little background information on him: he was born in Northern California. He had spinal tuberculosis at age 2 and was in the hospital for the next 9 years. He worked at his family's restaurant in Sacramento, the Chinese restaurant. Then he got into the aerospace field and got out of that and became a stand-up comedian. He started out on the show Happy Days and then got his own sitcom, Mr. T and Tina, which only, I think, lasted 6 episodes. I believe he said they filmed 10 and 6 were aired. And then he did the Karate, I think 4 Karate Kid movies. Mr. Miyagi talked about coming from Okinawa. And later on in his career, he went back to Happy Days for their last season in 1982. And later on in his career, he was on a show called played a grandfather on a show called The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, and then he was in a play version of The Odd Couple. He played Felix Unger in 2003 in some traveling show of The Odd Couple. Another girl I remember was a girl from a show called Dennis the Menace that starred Jay North. I remember seeing that on television when we lived in Huntsville back in like the 1970s. There was one episode that had a Chinese girl on it. As a matter of fact, Dennis got to be good friends with her, and Margaret was jealous. But her name was Sherilyn Lee, and here's a picture of her with Jay North on an episode of Dennis the Menace. And I was reading that she is now an author. She did a little bit of acting, but not a whole lot. Another Asian woman I remember was on the show Courtship of Eddie's Father. She played Mrs. Livingston, Miyoshi Yumiki, and here's a picture of her with Bill Bixby, and boy played his son on the show. I remember that show. I think it only lasted maybe like a season or 2 back in the early 1970s. Another one I have memory of is an actress called Marilyn Takuda. I didn't even know some of these names. I just kind of remembered seeing them on television. I had to do a little research to get names on them, but she was on a television show in 1977 called Roller Girls. That was another unsuccessful show that only lasted a few episodes, but I remember her. She played an Eskimo girl on the show. It was a show, I guess, basically about girls in roller derby, a team called the Pittsburgh Pits. And she was in the movie also Xanadu in 1980, All of Me 1984, and Farewell to the King 1989. Here's a picture of her in 1989 posing with Nick Nolte from the movie Farewell to the King. Another actress I remember seeing was Nancy Kwan. She was in the movie Flower Drum Song, and it's a picture of her. Her father was Chinese, her mother was Scottish. The marriage only lasted 2 years. They divorced actually when she was 2 years old. She studied ballet in England and was discovered at age 18. She was also known for the movie The World of Susie Wong with William Holden. All right, there was a girl also that I had a crush on back in the 1970s. It was on a show called Electric Company, June Angela. She was part of the Short Circus. The Short Circus, Electric Company, I think, went on from 1971 to 1977, and the kids in the Short Circus changed, except for her. She was there throughout the whole duration of the Short Circus. Here's a picture of her, June Angela. of Chinese descent, and she was an actress, singer, dancer. She was also on the show Mr. T and Tina that I discussed. Starred Pat Morita. She played one of his children, his daughter, and he has a son on the show too. She also was in the play version of The King and I. She worked with on it when Yul Brynner starred as the king. She played Tupton in The King and I. But yeah, I definitely remember her doing Electric Company. Used to watch that show back in the 70s mainly because she was on it. I remember they had the Short Circus, and the DJ Mel Mounds would introduce him, this man with his sunglasses and afro. It turned out, I didn't know until later, that was Morgan Freeman that was on that show that did that part of Mel Mounds. Kind of interesting. And last of all, I wanted to discuss another actress I remember from the movie Caprice. That was the first time I saw her. I've actually emailed her, had email conversations with her before. Her name's Irene Sue, and it's a picture of her from the 1960s. And she was also, I guess, a dancer in the movie Flower Drum Song, and that was the first movie she was in. She was born in Shanghai, China. She was also in the movie Paradise Hawaiian Style, worked with Elvis Presley, and in the movie The Green Berets, worked with John Wayne. I remember her being on the shows Perry Mason and My Three Sons, and I saw she was on Wild Wild West and Laredo and My Favorite Martians. She also made appearances on those shows. She also said she was on The Dating Game at one time. I have not found any video of that. Would like to have seen that one. She's now a real estate broker and is involved in yoga, and she's a single mother to a daughter named Yasmin. That's basically the memories I have of the Asian actors back in the 60s and 70s. I'm sure there were some others I just haven't been able to think of off the top of my head, but that's what I can remember. And as always, thanks for watching.